Hey there, Alan Matthews here, and this is video number 3 of our study guide on Vacances by Yvon Demillac from the RCM Bridges Level 1 repertoire book. Such a good one. And we have done a whole lot so far. So we've looked at the process of learning and memorizing and the right hand and the left hand and all these things. What we're going to be doing here is, in this video, is we're going to be looking at the rest of the fingerings, looking at some tricky fingering spots for the right hand and left hand, and then we're going to start talking about the phrasing and the musicality. So really looking at how to shape it to where it's just this beautiful little gem. So in this second phrase, this measures 5 through 8. In this second phrase, some interesting things happen, and one of them is so going from these right here, there's a little bit of sticky left hand business. So let's just take a look at this. We're just to spot check this. So by itself, 3 and 1s. We have our low F and A here. Well, what we've been doing this entire time is we've been letting these bass notes ring as long as possible. And so if you can play bar chords, if bar chords are in your current ability level, then you might want to bar this A right here or this C right here, because that will allow this bass note to ring, right? If not, then wait until after you've played this F. Make sure to keep holding the F as we would anyway, and then move holding the A and the F down, then move the 1 over to play the C over here. And so that's going to be the route on that. So we have 2 different ways. We can either bar it and 1 and 2 and bar, or 3 and 1 and 2. Leave the 3 and 2 down, move the 1 over. So that gets us to that bar line right there. Now then, we want to leave the 3 down ringing to cover this shift, and we have it right there. So we want to leave it down, and the 2 and 4 get into their positions. Now you don't have to lift. We want this C to connect to the D really well, because it's in the melody. We always want the melody to connect really beautifully with no gaps in between. So one of the things that we can do that is just leave the 1 down until this D plays, and then you can let go of it. So then leave that on there. Leave the 3 on there. So this is really one of those, this stays, this moves, this stays, this move throughout all of this. So and so then that gets it. So this is really a touchy little section here, but it's not even over yet, because then we have some other stuff that we can do. The next thing is that if you look at this, throughout the entire piece on the second beat, we have had half notes. We even have them there as well. Well, this one is not a half note. This one is a quarter note and then a quarter note rest. And that is not musical, that's logistical, because that's the editor, or Yvon, the composer, whoever it was, thought it'll be easier for the player just to lift that note. And so you can finger it like it says here with the 2 right here. You can do that, or you can be more true to the mode of the piece, or the style of the piece, which is to let that ring through and then figure out how to make that ring right there, right? And so let's just take a look at that. So here we are. And so then it's taking the 2 and moving it from there to there. And so another way to do this would be to leave this ringing, and use the 1 for this. And it's kind of funky. So we have to jam the 1 up in here like this, and then slide it there. So that's one way to do this. And if you do that, then you're going to have to let go of these notes at some point, and I would let go of it right here, like on the 16th note, right there. So after you play this note with the 1, here is where you release those notes right there. So your choreography would be lift, slide, So you would lift slide, and you would put it in exactly in time in your practice really slow, then you can get it out of there. It's getting a little bit more advanced as far as making those decisions, but I think it's important that you look at things like this when you see it in music and say, okay, this is a guitaristic, it's easier to play this way, so we're going to alter the music to make it fit the guitar, as opposed to the piece, the music itself, would have a long note right here, and it would want to ring, and this would have a long note as well. So it would all be just like every other bar. And the fact that we're just happen to be in a funky fingering issue is just something we have to deal with as musicians. So just something to think about. Jumping forward to the fourth 4-bar phrase. So this is the last line of the piece. Then we have the exact same issue, right? This is pretty much a mirror. It's a slightly embellished version of the line that we just looked at. And so as we're looking at this, then we can look at and say, okay, here we have the same issue, right? But here they actually did put the F as a long note. So they didn't, it was this measure, sorry. Forget I said that. But it's the exact same measure right here, right? It's the exact same issue for this. It's the exact same as in the other one. So whenever we're doing that, then we can bring that to it and finger it exactly the same way as we did before. The other thing I want to look at the end is this ending. And this is just me personally. I think this sounds better instead of the C sharp right here, to play it as an open B. And so where that way you just have this chord. I just think it's prettier and kind of fits the piece more than this, the major going to it's called a Picardy third, where you go major at the end. So you've been in minor this entire time, and then at the very end, you go major. And so that's a legitimate, it's a musical thing. We can do that. But I just like to leave the open B. I just like it better. But that's not what is written on the music, so you can make your own decision with it. And then the question is also with the right hand, how do we do this? We have a wavy line with an arrow on it. That means strum through the strings or roll the chord. So we can do that all with just the thumb, slowly, not as a big strum, but as a roll. So whatever chord we're playing, ba, 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 ba. Typically, the slower you play this chord, the more beautiful it will be. You can also go P-P-I-M-A, and it's a little bit more advanced way to roll the chord. But that's a choice you can make. It doesn't stipulate as far as this particular score goes, so you can do it either way. The other thing that we have is this roll right here. And this means rallentando, which is kind of like a retardando, which is we slow down. And so when we slow down, we want to continue to count, because that's what is going to determine how we place things. And so then as we're playing this 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. So we slow down our counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 1. And that tells us exactly where to put the quarter notes, because we've been slowing down at a progressive rate. And so we can really pay attention. I would practice this. I would definitely clap the rhythm, work out how you're going to do this so that you can really place each note exactly as it comes. Because we want to structure, when we slow down, that's a whole conversation in itself. But when we slow down, we want it to be at a predictable rate. Just like when you see a car slowing down, you know if it's right or if it's not right. If it's, you know if they're going too fast to slow down by the stop sign or something, or if they screech on brakes, then you know it's weird, right? So we just know these things. This is just how physics work in the universe. We've been seeing them all of our lives, and so we want them to match that. We want it to slow down at a reasonable pace that fits the mood of the piece. And a really fast slowdown isn't going to fit this mood. And also an erratic slowdown, dun dun dun, dun dun, whatever it is, it's not going to fit. So we want it to be just gently sitting it down, because that's the mood of the piece. So practice, work it out away from the instrument, and then come back to it with just clapping and counting, and then come on to it. All right, that gets us into the musicality. That's all of our hands, right? So and that's actually kind of bridges it because the Rallentando is part of the phrasing and the musicality. So in the next video, we will take a look at the phrasing and the musicality. So there's a lot to talk about there, and let's do it. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, and in the next video, we will look at the next. Also, if you're a more advanced player, that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where you can really find some good stuff to practice with this piece. So, fun things ahead. See you there.